Hello. Okay, so a few months ago, Canon dropped a new video-centric point-and-shoot camera, the Canon V1, and I bought one the day that it was announced. However, at the same time, there was another video-centric, like run-and-gun video vloggers camera that had been out for a while and that had already gained a ton of popularity, and that is the DJI Pocket 3. However, at the time, the Pocket 3 was just sold out everywhere. I actually wanted to do a comparison between these two cameras. Back then, I even reached out to DJI and asked them, but without any luck. However, fast forward to today, and DJI has actually sent me one of their Pocket 3s a few weeks ago and also asked me to do a comparison with this Canon V1. With that said, this video is indeed sponsored by DJI, and so no, this is not a completely unbiased video. However, as always, I will do my best to give the Canon V1 a fair shot, and I will also not hesitate to mention any flaws or shortcomings of the Pocket 3, but I obviously still want you to know that just in terms of transparency. And so, with all that out of the way, let's compare these two cameras. Okay, so while these two might be aimed at a similar target group, and while they might also both be like semi-professional video shooting solutions, they are coming at it from completely different directions. The Canon V1 is a very modern and high-end point-and-shoot camera that just looks and works like you would expect a classic point-and-shoot camera to do. It's a compact body with a retractable fixed zoom lens. Now, point-and-shoot cameras originated as photography solutions that sometimes also offered some video features, but they gained a big following, especially in the vlogger scene like 2015 and onwards, just because of how compact they were while still offering better image quality for video than the smartphones that were around at the time. And the Canon V1 very much feels like a camera that should have been released in that era. And so with this one, you get a surprisingly good integrated microphone with a hot shoe mounted dead cat, a flip screen so you can see yourself whilst filming yourself. You get a wide lens starting at 16mm, even though with the 4K crop applied it's more like a 17mm, but whatever, certainly wide enough for vlogging and stuff. It offers mechanical stabilization and digital stabilization as well. Again, it's everything we've known from point and shoot cameras for so long, with all the features you would want for on-the-go video shooting. The Pocket 3, however, is a very different beast. Instead of utilizing a design that was meant for photography and giving it more video-centric features, DJI listened to what their customers wanted and really focused on what's most important with any kind of video shooting, and especially with vlogging. Stable footage, good autofocusing, good audio, easy to use, draws little attention to itself and doesn't get in the way. And what they came up with is this tiny camera that is hardwired to a gimbal. It sports a 1-inch sensor, a 20mm lens with an f2 aperture. The autofocus just works as it should. You can magnetically attach Pro Mist and ND filters to the lens. There's even an ultra wide angle lens if 20mm is not enough for you, and you can get clean audio everywhere by using the DJI Mic 2 transmitter. The mic connects via Bluetooth on startup, comes as part of the Creator Combo Kit, and just clips to your t-shirt or jacket. Best of all, if you want to get a bit of distance between yourself and your camera, you can always just set the camera down and put it into face tracking mode, and it will just follow you like an integrated camera operator. And that is great, especially if you're just out and about and filming yourself. And with the Mic 2, you get crystal clear audio even when you're standing like, I don't know, 5 meters away. So right now I'm filming on the Canon V1. These are incredibly challenging conditions in regards to the audio because I'm right next to a river, which is rather loud, but very much looking forward to hearing what this sounds like. There's even a small waterfall going on. So yeah, really not the easiest of conditions. Okay, and just for comparison's sake, this is the audio straight out of the internal mic you get with the DJI Pocket 3. Same conditions, next to a river, next to that small waterfall. Let's try it out with the Mic 2 transmitter. All right then, and this is with the DJI Mic 2 in place. And yeah, this is not exactly pointing straight at me, but really looking forward to hearing what the difference is like with and without the microphone. I mean, again, these are incredibly challenging conditions for any kind of audio recording. If this works, this is incredible. Let's see. Now, to be fair though, you can always also record your audio externally with something like the Mic 2, or you can even use a receiver on top of the Canon V1 and feed the audio directly into the V1 as well that way. However, with the Pocket 3, it is just a bit more convenient and a bit more seamless because you can just connect it via Bluetooth. Super easy. With that out of the way though, let's talk about the image quality next. Now, in terms of image quality, these two cameras are very similar when it comes to the overall image quality. However, they do have their own unique strengths and weaknesses. The Canon V1 actually features a 1.4-inch sensor, which is even slightly larger than a Micro Four Thirds sensor and a lot bigger than the 1-inch sensor in the Pocket 3. Now, a bigger sensor usually means that you get cleaner footage, better low light performance and more bokeh. That's the blurry background stuff that you can see when I'm shooting with something like this. This is my Sony A7 Mark IV. However, despite its bigger sensor, that just doesn't ever seem to be the case with the Canon V1, and that is because even at the wide end, the Canon V1 just has an f2.8 aperture, which would be great on a full-frame sensor, but since this is a crop sensor, yeah, not so much. There's just not a whole lot going on in terms of compression, especially with the 16mm that you get at the wide end. And so, yeah, not a whole lot of bokeh, even if there's a lot of separation like right now between me and my actual background. So if you want a lot of bokeh, this is not the camera for you. Now, I'm obviously not going to pretend like this little Pocket 3 is a bokeh monster in comparison, but I think in between the 20mm lens, which has just a tiny bit more compression, and that f2 aperture, it's got a little bit more going on in terms of background separation. I'll let you be the judge of that though. And this is also the reason why the Canon V1 is not able to pull ahead in regards to the low light capabilities either. Both are decent, but at least to my eye, the Pocket 3 edges out the V1 by just a bit. But what if it's sunny outside? Well, since it's early December here in Germany, at the time of recording this video, I cannot exactly go out and get footage in very bright conditions. But if you're planning on using either of these cameras to shoot video on your next summer vacation, you probably want to utilize the 180-degree rule, which means that your shutter speed should be twice your frame rate. So I'm shooting at 25 frames per second, which means that I should use a shutter speed of 1/50th of a second. And in order to achieve that in bright conditions, you have to use ND filters unless you are willing to stop down your aperture. The Canon V1 comes with an integrated ND filter, which is neat, but it's just a 3-stop ND filter, and so it won't exactly save you in bright conditions. And since there's no other way to attach an ND filter to this camera, you are kind of out of luck. With the Pocket 3, on the other hand, you can attach ND filters to the lens magnetically, easy peasy, but mind you, you have to buy them separately. However, that at least means that you can select the strength of your ND filter according to how bright it is outside. And so you should be good to go no matter the conditions. And of course, we also have to talk about image stabilization, and we all know where this is going, so I'll just make it quick. The Canon has optical stabe, which works okay. It's really not too bad, especially when you're using a small tripod with the camera as a grip. And you can also opt to use digital stabe on top, which I personally don't like doing because it sometimes can look a bit weird with this camera and it crops into my image, which I also don't like. Either way, it works okay, but obviously it's no match for the DJI Pocket 3. I mean, this camera is literally a gimbal. The kind of stabilization that you get with this camera just wipes the floor with the V1. It's no match, it's not even close. In terms of stabilization, there is just no competition here. Okay, so let's do a little test of the stabilization. I got the Canon V1 on my right hand side and the DJI Pocket 3 on my left hand side. I'm walking on like a little gravel path. Yeah, what does that look like? The Canon V1 has only got the regular optical stabilization on, so no digital stabilization. The DJI Pocket 3 is obviously a gimbal. Yeah, and the audio is coming from the DJI Mic 2, and I'm also walking next to a little river. And so if you're filming a lot while you're moving around, the Pocket 3 just easily takes the win. Let's do a couple of quick pros and cons next, and after that I will give you my conclusion. Now, both cameras can shoot 4K in 10-bit and log, but from my experience, the C-Log 3 you get with the V1 is a good bit more flexible than the D-Log M you get with the Pocket 3. The footage from the V1 therefore overall behaves very similar to the footage out of my full-frame Sonys, and I assume that that is partly due to the bigger sensor and also partly due to the more professional grade codec. This is an area where the V1 takes the cake, but it's a lot closer than you might think. Now, the V1 offers a zoom range of 16 to 50mm, while the Pocket 3 has that fixed 20mm lens. But you can attach an ultra-wide adapter, giving you a 15mm equivalent field of view, so even slightly wider than the V1, and the Pocket 3 can digitally zoom to 40mm, which obviously is not the same as having actual optical zoom, but it works surprisingly well. The real-world difference between these two is therefore a lot less noticeable in my experience than you would think by looking at them on a spec sheet. So this was a lot of fun for me because this is a comparison that I actually wanted to do for so long. And truth be told, even though this video is sponsored by DJI, part of me really wanted the Canon V1 to win in a way, just because I am somewhat fond of the overall layout of having that point and shoot body. I don't know, maybe it's just a bit of nostalgia, but I really do like it. However, when it comes to on-the-go video shooting and especially vlogging, the DJI Pocket 3 just pulls ahead in pretty much all of the really important areas. You get incredible stabilization, you get great audio, especially if you also utilize that DJI mic 2. You basically have an integrated camera operator when you set the camera down and it tracks you while you're off doing something else. And you can easily attach Pro Mist filters and D filters and all kinds of stuff magnetically directly to the lens. And so in my opinion, the Canon V1 really only makes sense when you really need that C-Log 3 footage, maybe if you want to pair that footage up with some of your more professional cameras, or if you also really want to use that camera for shooting photos as well. Because while the DJI Pocket 3 is probably better for front and gun video shooting, and again especially for vlogging, the Canon V1 is just better for taking photos. That just comes as part of the better ergonomics and so on. It's more of a traditional camera in that sense, and so if that is important to you, I would steer you towards the Canon V1. But since this comparison is focused at the video shooting and vlogging side of things, the Pocket 3 again really easily takes the cake. Better stabilization, insane audio, super convenient to use. It's essentially, I don't know if DJI wants me to say this, but in my opinion, it's essentially like a tiny DJI Ronin 4D, but with a fixed lens, and so it's kind of just about perfect for what it is, and I'm really excited to see where DJI is going with this concept going forward, because I honestly don't see a lot about this camera that they actually could improve. Anyway, thanks again to DJI for sponsoring this video, and thank you so much for watching. I hope this was interesting to you, and I will see you in another one soon. Until then, take good care. Bye.